Tim Wall, analyzing the political economy of the Internet music radio, observes that although music and profit maximization are two central aspects of contemporary radio, they are neglected. I would like to focus precisely on at least one of those neglected aspects, the music. As Antoine Hennion and Cécile Meadle have pointed out, radio is the medium par excellence. I think that it is not an exaggeration to add that it is a medium par excellence especially for the musical culture. Considering the history of the medium, regardless of its form as a public service, a business, a propaganda system, or some hybrid, it is not very difficult to confirm its importance for the musical culture. Either as a major player in the local music life, as in the Greek case until the elimination of the state monopoly, and that of Great Britain, or through its symbiotic relation with the other major player in the music life of the 20th century, the recording industry, radio is nowadays more engaged in the workings of the musical culture than ever. In Greece, most of the approximately 1,300 radio stations are music stations, and as several researchers have noted, the fact that the radio set vanishes in the dashboard of a car, in the alarm clock, in the mobile phone etc., rather reinforces its power in everyday life. It also makes more difficult to establish its cultural significance. In the economics of culture and the arts, however, as well as in the economics of the recording industry, and in the sociology of music, radio is considered a sector of the music industries. Several researchers, starting from Adorno with his social critique of radio music, through Hirsch, Scannell, Maum and Wallace, Richard Peterson, and Williamson and Clune and more recently, to mention just a few of them, have shown convincingly I think, that radio is a key player in the system for the production and consumption of music. It is then embedded in the complex system, through which musical culture is produced, within the broader mode of production in contemporary societies. From this point of view, a set of questions raised concerns the functions of the Internet radio in the production of musical culture, and their changes. It is not clear yet, whether these functions have changed, to what extent, or whether new functions emerge in this field. For example, in the Greek case, it is not very easy to establish how these functions are changed if at all, since most of the Internet radio stations are an extension of the parent medium, the radio frequency stations. An analysis of a small sample of their web pages, carried out as part of a cost action, revealed that most of them see the Internet just as another station promotion channel. This is why these websites usually look like station advertising booklets, the interactivity in them is very low, and the use of multimedia content is rare. Rear-view mirrorism rather than innovation dominates the Greek Internet radioscape. More research needs to be done in this direction, or perhaps it is too early in a country where about 35% of the population uses the Internet, taking the 24th position in the EU 27, and it is estimated that about 16% listens to radio or watches TV through the Internet, that is approximately 1.7 million. In the 70s the influential view about radio as a gatekeeper, in the system for the production of music, was suggested by Paul Hirsch. However, this approach was later criticized, as music like all cultural goods is not just filtered by neutral selectors, but mediated. Radio producers and music programmers have their own cultural capital, their own representations about their audiences, their profession and their relations with the recording industry, their own professional habits, ethos etc. Besides, decision-making in each radio station, like in every enterprise, is dominated by a specific organizational culture, which also includes representations about profitability and success. If the recording producer represents the public to the artist and the music to the media, as Hennion has shown in his Sociology of the Intermediary, the music radio producer represents the public to the advertisers, on the one side, while on the other he represents the recording industry and the music to the public. Moreover, the music radio producer frames the presentation of the music to the public, thus contributing to the creation of its value and meaning for the audiences. As Hennion and Meadle point out, music is not delivered to the programmers with a ready-made audience attached. They have to create that link. and the creation of this link, which actually is the construction of an audience, is a far more complicated process than gatekeeping. From this point of view, and following Keith Nigas' analysis about the importance of the culture of production in the recording industry, August identified 4 knowledge frameworks, the programming philosophies as he calls them, deployed by music radio programmers, in order to understand the world of musical consumption, and guide their activities. According to this view, there may be either an aesthetic or a research approach to music programming, complemented by an orientation toward either industry or audience. Another question, then, that can be raised, concerns the changes the Internet radio brings about, if it does at all, to the complexities of mediation and to the knowledge frameworks of the music radio programmers. The complexities of mediation extend to the management of the music formats. The music formats, according to August and Faulkner and other researchers, serve an important coordinating function, by providing a common frame of reference for professionals in the radio and the recording industry, as well as for audiences. Formats then are a way to frame the presentation of music to the public, and as it is known, they are used for audience fragmentation and targeting. Conceptualizing programmers as managers of music formats reveals them analytically as intermediaries between primary creators of cultural objects, in this case the recording industry, and audiences for finished cultural commodities. Simon Frith also suggests that radio programmers play a determinant role in music genre labeling, and also that in circulating expectations about music genres, radio is pivotal. According to this view, formats are the basis of the uneasy symbiosis between radio and the recording industry, in which the record companies use radio to promote their records, and stations use music to target listeners that are attractive to advertisers. As Jody Berlin has pointed out, formats are important for the differentiation of the station and listener identities. From this point of view, they also reveal an important aspect of the ways radio produces culture. Even radio as a public service has to deal with different groups of people with different preferences and interests. A set of questions, then, that future research has to answer, concerns the audience fragmentation and the formats in Internet radio. In certain cases, like the Greek one, the formats of music radio programming are not very well established, in terms of a generally accepted classification, although for marketers format orientation is important. Also, the divergence between the self-presentation of our music radio station and the actual content of its program is not that unusual, as revealed by a sample analysis of radio stations' websites. Peculiarities like these make research more complicated and difficult. An analysis of the real formats, and a classification of various types of music programming in Greece, are still tasks of future research. In March 2007, the Copyright Royalties Board in Washington approved a wholesale change in the royalty structure paid by Internet radio. Instead of paying a percentage of gross royalties, as cable and satellite radio do, webcasters would suddenly have to pay a small fee per listener and per song. Depending on the specifics of a given webcaster's audience, the new rules could mean a 1,000% increase in royalty payments, in many cases requiring payments that actually exceed gross revenues. And the rates were supposed to be retroactive to the start of 2006. In a recent article of this year, on digital copyright royalties and Internet radio, Kellen Myers shows convincingly enough, that the royalty increase for most small webcasters could possibly reach as high as 1,200% of revenues. You can see here the rates decided by the U.S. Copyright Royalties Board for webcasting, after strong lobbying and pressures, by Sound Exchange, that is the royalty collection organization of the recording industry. Considering the dispute about webcasting royalties since the end of the 90s, I would like to add that the unclear situation related with the legal status of the Internet in general, and the web radio in particular, gave the recording industry several advantages in its struggle for domination in this field. It is, I think, more than clear, that it sees the Internet radio as an easy source of revenues. In the Greek case, like in other cases as well, The major organization for collecting royalties, ECREA, also believes that Internet radio is an easy source of revenues. There is, therefore, a very strong battle going on between various players, with different motivations and interests, and, this is I think an important aspect of the problem, with different cultures about widening or even opening the access to music. From this point of view, although the benefits of the Internet radio are usually discussed in detail, and occasionally some kind of Internet nirvana theory is elaborated, it seems that the complexities and their consequences for the Internet radio and its future, especially concerning the culture of the producers, need to be explored further. Professor Bellinger in his presentation on the Canadian radio, gave some interesting observations and hints yesterday in this direction, when he spoke about the differences between the old generation of traditional radio producers, and the new generation of the audiences. Having said that, and considering the disputes and the aforementioned struggle, it seems that lowering the barriers is not that an easy and sure outcome, as it seems at first glance. It should also be taken into account the fact, that while the startup costs for an Internet station are very low, compared to a radio frequency station, the ongoing costs are several times higher, because adding any extra listener has some cost. During almost 15 years of Internet radio, a discussion is going on about the new models of radio. As portability of the Internet radio will soon cease to be a problem, new models may appear. Portability is about to be provided, since by the end of 2008, Blowpunkt, the manufacturer of car audio systems, has made an agreement with the inventor of Mi-Roamer, a device that allows wireless access to the Internet using Bluetooth technology. If Internet radio can be accessed from cars, drivers will have access to more than 16,000 radio stations, and the possibility to customize the content. Some researchers, like Gartley and Smith, suggested that a synergistic alliance might enable both radio frequency and Internet radio to survive and develop in an ever-broadening competitive landscape. They suggested that because Internet radio is an ideal medium for individually tailored, customized programs, it provides advertisers a way to hit a variety of specific targets. This is also supported by others, like Tim Wall. The traditional model of selling audiences to advertisers, then, may survive in the Internet, under certain conditions, as well as subscription-based models. However, as Tim Wall suggests, there are new models, like music programs that can be listened to on demand, for example podcasting. These programs often offer a distinctive style of music programming, that is not available in mainstream music radio, and again the aggregate audience achieved through global reach, and on-demand technology, can create a sufficiently large, and economically viable audience. Others have also suggested, that Internet radio offers the possibility to create programs which could have no chance in the traditional radio. This might also increase the variety of content. However, for the time being, the economics of strongly branded companies seem to favor such provision. Several questions, which also need to be studied, are raised from the structural changes brought about by the Internet radio. These concern changes in its cultural functions and the ways producers perceive the digital environment and its potential. As it is well known, the broad use of the Internet as a distribution channel has undermined the equilibrium of the music industry system. For example, musicians realize that the traditional modes of cultural production, with their inflexibility and well-established system of power relations, may be bypassed. There are already some examples of musicians that became famous and well-known through the Internet, and without using a single minute of airplay. It is hard to deny that the Internet has created new possibilities for the radio, possibilities that might loosen its relation with the recording industry, despite the struggle of the latter to dominate the field. In conclusion, my suggestion is that the analysis of the impact the Internet has on the cultural functions of radio should include an analysis of the ways in which the culture of the producers is also changing, along with the culture of the audiences, without, in any case, neglecting the changes in the production of culture. Because changes occur in rather unpredictable directions, as the case with the wireless and mobile internet suggests, and because they are accelerated, perhaps it would be more productive to insist on studying what is happening, rather than what might happen in the future.